James Gunn has been reinstated for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. What's going on out there, guys? It's your boy Tommy on the spot. Welcome to another edition of Disney 101, the Green Edition, the St. Patrick's Day edition of Disney 101. And I'm going to be welcoming in my co-host here, Steve. Steve, how are you doing today?
You know me, magical as always, enjoying the first couple of days of my spring break. Nice weather out here too. Just hanging out.
Very cool. Yeah, no, and I see you got a big bright green shirt on there representing Reptar from the Rugrats back in the day.
Of course, and I'm very proud of you that you actually recognize that.
Usually,
you can really see his head.
Usually I would not, but you're right. That series, that Nickelodeon era Nicktoons series is kind of right in my bread box there. So good to see that. Of course, it's my one time of the year I'm able to proudly have a reason to wear a Jets shirt other than the start of each NFL season. So good stuff. But we wanted to welcome you guys here today, and we're going to get into a couple different things. We are going to get into a Captain Marvel review. We're probably going to move that towards the end of the episode, just in case if anybody doesn't want any spoilers, they can turn it off and not worry about that. We're also going to get into the big news that James Gunn's reinstatement for Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which kind of came out of nowhere, and some more news as the show continues. But before we do, Steve, you mentioned that you have a big announcement of your own.
I do, yeah. So I am officially registered for the 10th anniversary Disney Wine and Dine Half Marathon weekend coming up this November. I'm very excited about that.
That is very cool. And now, I believe that registration right now is only open for annual pass holders. Is that correct?
So open registration for Disney annual pass holders and Disney Vacation Club members is going on right now. It started last Thursday on the 14th. And it's going to go until 8 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, March 18th. So that's so tomorrow. And then general registration officially opens Tuesday, the 19th at 10 a.m. Eastern.
Very cool. That's awesome. And now, so are you doing the full half marathon?
I am not only doing the full half marathon, but I'm also doing the 10K. So I'm doing the Disney 2-course challenge.
Wow. So does that go back to back?
It goes, so the 10K is on the 2nd, and then the half marathon is on November 3rd.
Very cool. That's
So the 10K day 1, and then the half marathon day 2. So if you're looking to pre-register right now, you can, if you're an annual pass holder or a DVC member, you can do so. Just so you know, for pre-registration, at least, the 5K and the 10K are both sold out right now. But the half marathon and the Disney, the 2-course challenge, and all of the other events and everything that are going on are still open for pre-registration as of right now, as of 10:42 a.m. on the 17th. A lot could change between then. So that doesn't mean that if you just want to run the 10K, you're out of luck, so to speak. But you just have to wait until open registration on the 17th.
Is this something that opens up registration on the 7th? So that's today open registration comes out?
Oh, I'm sorry, on the 19th. On the 19th.
Gotcha. Yeah. So does that mean, do you think there will be tickets released for the 19th?
Oh, yeah. With the pre-registration, they only let a certain amount of pre-registration open. And it even says, if races listed below are sold out, please check back Tuesday, March 19th. So that means that if you want to register for just the 5K or just the 10K, right now, if you are a DVC member or an annual pass holder, you just have to wait until the 19th for general, because since those are the shorter races, they go a little bit faster. But the half marathon and the 2-course challenge right now are still available. So if you do want to do both, because you have to, it's not like you register for the 10K and then you register for the half marathon and you're good. You have to specifically register for the 2-course challenge because it's a separate entrance.
Got it. And now 2-course challenge, is that also available now or no?
The 2 challenge is available right now, and the half marathon by itself are available right now.
Very cool. Very cool.
Or at least for pre-registration.
Well, I'm glad it's not a situation like, how a lot of bands or sporting events always say, tickets went on sale Friday at 10 o'clock and they all sold out in 3 minutes. And do you know how they do that?
Yeah. No, it's and that's kind of why Disney doesn't do that, because they know all the annual pass holders and all the DVC members and everything, if enough people wanted to do it, they could.
Right.
I don't think there's enough where it would warrant completely selling out. But they want to make sure that they give those people the benefit and the opportunity to register early, but also they don't want to completely shun everybody else.
Right. And I mean, and for those who don't know, so when bands and sporting events do that, when they say it's sold out in 3 minutes, the reason it's sold out in 3 minutes is because there's usually a pre-sale and they release almost all of the tickets on the pre-sale. Those are all gobbled up, and then they save like maybe 100 more tickets for general sale. That goes on sale. They gobble up in 3 minutes, and it makes it feel like, whoa, they had a huge sellout in 3 minutes. And really, It's been a couple days. But so it's good Disney doesn't do that, especially because for these marathon weekends, they are a really big. They're really big in getting people. People want to be there. People want to. It's a big time tourist weekend.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, and definitely because the first race, the expo and everything opens on Halloween. So the 5K is going to be on November 1st, the 10K is on November 2nd, and then the half marathon is on November 3rd. So the whole event weekend starts on Halloween. So if you plan it right, you could not get, you could go to, even if you're only here for a week, you could do Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party. You could do the races, and then you could do Food and Wine Festival all the while as well. And then a couple of days later, you can start doing the Christmas parties and stuff. So this is really, I don't know if this was by design or not. It probably was, knowing Disney. But if you plan to go for a week, it might have to overlap a few days over the weekend. But you could get a lot of stuff done, a lot of different opportunities here.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's certainly something to consider, too, for folks that are coming out of town. We had my wife and I are typically the folks that, hey, we're going to start hiking, and then we look up best places to hike, and they're like the hugest place in the planet of Earth, and we just go guns blazing and do that. So we did. We went to Arizona this year. We climbed this hike that WWE wrestlers were also climbing, and that was way too big for us, but we did it. It probably is smarter for us to start with a 10K since we don't really run. So a 10K certainly sounds a little better than the half marathon.
If you start planning now, in about 7.5 months, you could be in half marathon shape. If you train for the 10K, if you actually really train and do and go all in on the 10K, you would be fine on the half marathon. You're not going to make. I mean, if you've never done one before, you're going to set a PR, right? It's going to be the best time you've ever run a half marathon,
right?
But you'll at least survive it without any injuries or anything like that. Knock on wood.
Now, when you train for a half marathon, do you do a half marathon in training for a half marathon?
Usually, I'll do one half marathon or close to it in training, but most of the time I'm training for a 10K. So most of the time when I start off really running long distances, I'll do at least 6 miles and then maybe walk another 2, 1 or 2 for a cool down or something like that. But for me, I'll usually train for a 10K, knowing that a half marathon, it's twice as much, but it's when you get your body in that form, you're going to just naturally kind of be able to do it a little bit better.
Right. And it's I think it was Michael Jordan who once said something to the extent of, I'm probably misquoting here, but excellence is not necessarily doing anything better than anybody else. It's nailing the basic fundamentals and consistently doing those over and over and over. So your theory would make sense if you're training for the 10K. At that point, might as well just do the full half marathon.
Yeah, because and there's a ton of different, there's different apps and there's different, philosophies on running and that kind of stuff. There is the getaway method that RunDisney is very, it promotes a lot because there's the famous runner, I'm blanking on his first name, but his method of, it's definitely a pace, and it's, you run, you walk, that kind of thing. And usually in my philosophy is, no, I'm going to run until I can't run anymore. I'm going to rest for a little bit, and then I'm going to keep running until I can't run anymore. Right. I tried that on the last 10K that I did. And I did not get as good of results as I usually do. So I'm definitely going back to the run, walk, pacing myself so that I can go all out on those runs and still kind of keep something in the tank. There's a bunch of different other philosophies about running that maybe we can get into a little bit later if you guys are actually planning on coming to doing the RunDisney event.
Well, I mean, the thing is, if we're going to do it, we're going to have to sign up for this pretty quick because it sounds like it's something that probably won't have too much time to do it.
I would say so. The thing with if you are planning on doing the 2-course challenge, which I totally recommend, by the way, not just because I want a running buddy, but the 2-course challenge and the half marathon typically won't sell out as quick because they are a half marathon and a challenge. The ones that do sell out typically faster are going to be the 5K, the 10K, because they're shorter races, and the 5K, there's no time requirement at all.
Oh, okay.
So you could walk the whole thing. You could take your sweet time, and walk the whole thing, and you won't be lapped or anything. With the 10K, the half marathon, there are requirements that you have to keep, pacing requirements and that kind of thing, where if you fall behind too far, you are going to get picked up and not be able to finish the race.
Gotcha. That's crazy.
So, yeah. So, I mean, it's definitely it's an investment both in money and in your time and your energy, and being able to say, okay, now I have to go and start training for this half marathon. But it's totally worth it. That the experience just by running a RunDisney event is just awesome. And, it motivates you a lot to get better into shape and that kind of thing. So I'm all for it.
Oh, very cool. Yeah. Hey, I mean, and congratulations for signing up for that. Is this your first, how long was the last time since you've done your last half marathon?
The last half marathon I did was last year, the Star Wars half marathon. And I did also the Dark Side Challenge there, which was also a 10K and a half marathon. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping that I break my PR for the half marathon, because I was dealing with a big knee issue and huge blisters on my feet halfway through the half marathon. So hoping maybe that I can look forward to getting a PR in the half marathon this fall.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we'll all be rooting for you and tracking your status as you train for it. And who knows, maybe I'll join you guys as well down there. It definitely does sound like the best week to do it. I think that WrestleMania coming to Tampa has thrown a wrench a little bit into those plans, simply because we're going to definitely be down there for that. But it does feel like it would still be nice to go and do all the Halloween stuff down there, and also the food and wine, certainly, and also the Christmas party as well. So maybe we'll be able to do a little of everything.
I mean, also just saying, if you want to come down and of course, you personally, not everybody else that's watching, our house is always open. So you're going to see over there.
That would be something. You have a Jake Paul issue there.
Right.
I'm not sure you have 18 million people showing up. But
no, I don't. Yeah. But you do the Halloween party, you do the Christmas party, and the rest of the time can be spent, kind of resort hopping and doing other stuff like we did on your most recent visit. So,
yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have not seen yet, by the way, on this YouTube channel that you guys are watching, we currently have a video up from my latest stay down there. Talk about resort hopping. We did the monorail crawl, which is certainly something that a lot of people are, enjoying, and I thank you guys for already checking that video out. But if you haven't done so already, check it out on our YouTube page. It's the monorail crawl. We went from the Polynesian to the Grand Floridian to the Contemporary Resort, and got a cool couple videos on in between each thing, and I've gotten some great feedback on it. So definitely check that out if you get a chance. All right, so we're going to move along now. Steve, you said there was something else in the news that you wanted to touch on?
Just speaking of the Polynesian, there is the Heart of Tahiti line Dole Whip cone at Disney's Polynesian Village Resort over at the Pineapple Lanai, and it looks really cool. I love that Disney it's definitely going towards these foods that are, especially desserts, that are completely 100% Instagram worthy. And this looks so cool. I'm definitely going to have to make my way over there soon. I don't think it was there when we were there. But I would definitely say we have to go over there soon and check it out, and maybe I'll be able to post that on Instagram or something.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Yeah, and a great segue there as well. Over the last week, we did launch our official Instagram page. We are officially on Instagram, same as Twitter, at Disney101 Pod, and so that's at DISNEY 101 POD. And check us out over there. We've already got some great photos up there. We've met a lot of great folks. And if you get that chance, check us out over there. The World of Disney Instagram is a lot of fun. There's super talented people who have taken some incredible photos on there. And if you're a fan of just looking at Disney photos, that is the place to be. It's just really cool to see. The stories are a lot of fun, too. The different types of I don't even know how to say it, but there's just a lot of really talented folks out there, and Disney Instagram is a lot of fun.
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely a rabbit hole that you can tumble down. You just start looking at other things, and then you have like 20,000 of those that are up there too. So it's just really cool to check out. So there are a couple of other things that have kind of made in the news recently. Going over to Hollywood Studios. Now, one of the few things that has kind of gotten a state of execution over the last years is the Indiana Jones Epic Stunt Spectacular show. And it is pretty much the way that it for nearly 30 years, it's been the same. Not really a lot has changed about this show. And it looks like it's actually going to be updated for the 50th anniversary in 2021. And it's kind of, it makes sense because the old, the theming of the show itself is really themed after the old Hollywood Studios theming and, vision, if you will, because the whole thing was Hollywood Studios. It's the backlot, of a studio, of the actual production. So you get a lot of the ins and outs of productions and stuff. There was the backlot tour. There was a lot of other things that were more geared towards the actually making of film and television. And that is what a lot of the Indiana Jones stunt show was about. But now that it's kind of moving away from that and more focusing just on the movies themselves and, that kind of thing, sounds like we're getting a different feel for the Indiana Jones stunt show. Now, this is something I don't think that you've ever done.
No, I don't think we ever have. And that's in Hollywood Studios?
It is, yeah.
That's interesting. So it's been there a long time in Hollywood Studios.
Yeah, and it has. So it's basically almost since 1989, so when the park almost pretty much opened. Now, to accommodate for adjustments, the show will go dark for a lengthy period spanning from 2020 to 2021. So if you do want to check it out before that refurbishment, definitely check it out soon, like maybe when you're here in the fall.
Yeah. It'll be close to refurbishment and opening up in the fall, you said?
So it's going to be going down at some time in 2020, probably, and then the new version of the show is set to debut in the summer of 2021.
Gotcha. Okay. Awesome. Yeah.
And also around the time of the schedule, at least for Indiana Jones 5, which is going to be coming up around 2021. I'm trying to find it right now because I did see this is kind of a good transition. The 30th, they had the 30th anniversary of Hollywood Studios. They had a picture of it or something. The new logo just came out, and it has everybody kind of really promoting that because that's the 30th anniversary is this year, correct? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's something that I think a lot of folks are excited about, and they have a picture of what that new logo is going to be. And there's a lot of folks who are saying, certain people have been left out of that. There are a couple folks who are saying that they're excited for the inclusion, certainly, of Kermit the Frog, who's on there. But I actually, now that you mentioned Indiana Jones, I was very surprised to see that Indiana Jones has no representation on there. You feel like he should have some representation on the thing. I can't find that photo now, unfortunately. But it feels like he should be a part of that kind of film strip. Do you know the picture I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Well, and there's that. And then there's also the fact that the parking lot is going to be renamed with Disney characters. Right now, how you always say, okay,
I did just find the photo. So just want to put that up there for you guys if you guys could see it. That's the 30th, 30 years of Hollywood Studios photo. So you see that you've got Mickey Mouse, you've got Olaf, you've got the chick from the movie with all the feelings. This lady with the glasses.
Did you say the movie from the lady with all the lady from the movie with all the feelings?
Yeah. Isn't that who that is? I mean, that's embarrassing that I said that, no doubt. It's definitely one for the record books of awful for somebody hosting a Disney podcast. But this lady, do you know who I'm talking about?
Joy?
Joy. This is Joy, right? There you go, Joy. Then you've got, and that's a great movie, one of my favorites. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name of it right now. Next to her, you've got...
You mean Inside Out?
Inside Out, there you go. And then you've obviously got Kermit, and you've got Woody and the Slinky Coaster. I think some folks are excited about it. At the same time, there's some things that are really missing from Hollywood studios. I think, you know, a little bit of that history, like Indiana Jones, I think would be a really good thing to add to this, kind of promotion. And is this the Hollywood Tower of Terror back there, or is that just a random building?
I would imagine that it is the Tower. Yeah, that's the Tower of Terror. Yeah.
Gotcha. So at least they have that. But yeah. I don't know. I feel like they could have had, you know, when they kind of have a little bit more celebrating the history of MGM Studios a bit. You know, I don't know that we necessarily. What's that?
And that's the whole thing, that they are moving away from MGM Studios. They're moving away from this studio theming. And it's, again, they're the old signs for the parking lot are changing too. It used to be film, stage, music, and television. You know, you'd say, okay, we're in film 24 or whatever it is, you know, when you're parking your car. But now they're moving to actual character names, similar to how the Magic Kingdom does it. So you have BB-8, you're going to have Mickey and Minnie, Olaf, Buzz, and Jessie as the new parking lot names.
Gotcha.
So it's the same, you know, they're all, and there's gonna be a new bus loop. There's gonna be those new parking lot names. So it's definitely not too far off before we might get a new name for Hollywood Studios completely.
Gotcha.
Just because they're completely moving away from the Hollywood Studios theming. So it would kind of make sense that a new name might follow suit.
Right. And I mean, it's cool they have BB-8, but you'd almost think they'd have a little more Star Wars there with Star Wars Land coming. You feel like Star Wars Land is probably going to be a bigger deal at the end of the day than even Toy Story Land was.
Yeah.
Why is Olaf there? Is there anything Frozen in the park right now?
Yeah, there's the Frozen sing-along.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So they have a little something. But
yeah, I mean, that's kind of it. But, you know.
Well, because Frozen is more in Epcot.
It is, yeah, definitely. So yeah, you know, maybe they could have gone with another Star Wars thing. Maybe they could have done Indiana Jones instead. But, you know, you go with what's making the money right now, and that's Frozen. So
yeah, I guess you're right. I guess at the end of the day, that's where it's at. And you see Olaf on there, and it's going to attract folks to come there, especially this is for the 30th years, which is 30th year anniversary, and which also coincides with Frozen 2, which is going to be a huge movie for them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, excellent. So, is there anything else you wanted to touch on, or should we get into kind of the this James Gunn situation?
I think, yeah, definitely the two big the topics of today. I'm ready.
Absolutely. Yeah, so James Gunn has been reinstated. This is a story that broke, I believe it was Friday, I want to say. It might have even been yesterday morning. James Gunn, this coming from Mike Fleming Jr. over at Deadline.com. Redemption and second chances have long been superhero movie staples, and today it looks like life has imitated art. Disney has reinstated James Gunn as the writer and director of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and it looks like this is going to happen. The decision to rehire Gunn by Disney after alt-right journalists have made public a full facade of decade-old social media missives that made light of pedophilia and rape. Was one that was mulled and actually made months ago, following conversations with Disney studio leadership and the team at Marvel Studios. Why the change of heart? After the firing, Walt Disney Studios chairman Alan Horn met with Gunn on multiple occasions to discuss. Lost my thing there. To discuss the situation. Persuaded by Gunn's public apology and his handling of the situation after, Horn decided to reverse course and reinstate Gunn. There's a lot more to this. You guys can check out the full article. I'll throw it up on our Twitter if you want to go ahead and read that. But it's a pretty big deal, especially because it really did feel like Batista was definitely not. It looked like he was going to sit this one out without James Gunn. One would assume he'll be back in the fray if James Gunn is now reinstated.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I'm sure that had something to do with it, the fact that a lot of the stars of the movie were saying, you know, we don't want to do the movie without him and that kind of thing. I'm sure that it was not just one thing.
Right.
that led to this decision, I'm sure. It was that. It was James Gunn's handling of the situation and taking full accountability for it and saying, what I said was wrong. He was doing it on the purpose of being, controversial and that kind of thing. There's something that says, he was straight out of, a situation where he was trying to be that person and be that kind of edgy person and did it wrong and handled it wrong and took full accountability for it, apologized profusely for it, said this is all on me many times, as opposed to other people that have handled this situation. So I think it was partially his handling of the situation. It was partially the pressure that they got from all of the stars, from especially Dave Bautista and Chris Pratt and all the other stars of the movie. And I think it was kind of interesting because at first it kind of seems like when James Gunn was also announced to be the director of Suicide Squad 2, everybody was saying, oh, okay, well, that's definitely, that's it for him coming back to Marvel, right? But it appears that's not the case.
Right, and it looks like, wasn't the rumor that Dave Bautista was going to be heading over to Suicide Squad 2 as well?
I mean, I'm sure they would have found some way to put him in there, and there's nothing that says that he's not. But right. I did hear that Will Smith isn't returning for his role as Deadshot, so that could be.
Yeah, and I do have the full public apology here. I was able to pull that up. So what James Gunn said when this happened in July, and this was right when we first started Disney 101, we were talking about this because it was a story that really kind of just broke, right as we kind of got going. He said, my words of nearly a decade ago were, at the time, totally failed and unfortunate efforts to be provocative. So you're right. He was going for kind of that, there are a lot of comedians out there that try to get a rise out of people by, they're supposed to be funny, and oh my God, I can't believe he said that. That's clearly what he was going for. I've regretted them for many years since, not just because they were stupid, not at all funny, wildly insensitive, and certainly not provocative like I had hoped, but also because they don't reflect the person I am today or have been for some time. Regardless of how much time has passed, I understand and accept the business decisions taken today. Even these many years later, I take full responsibility for the way I conducted myself then. All I can do now, beyond offering my sincere and heartfelt regret, is to be the best human being I can be, accepting, understanding, committed to equality, and far more thoughtful about my public statements and my obligations to our public discourse. To everyone inside my industry and beyond, I again offer my deepest apologies. Love to all. When you compare that to the situation that happened with Kevin Hart when he was taken off hosting the Oscars and absolutely refused to apologize and said he had addressed those comments and he doesn't want to talk about them anymore, and kind of threw a bit of a hissy fit, you could see why people were like, all right, hey, that is the way to handle it. It's something, take responsibilities for your actions, sometimes turn the other cheek. I'm sure deep down inside, this guy was not thrilled about the decision, but he respected it and is moving on. And I think that was really well handled.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it's one of those things where like excuse me, that's exactly it. There have been other celebrities that have gotten in hot water for saying stupid things, inappropriate things, offensive things, like Kevin Hart did. And there are those people that make a career out of it. You think Howard Stern and Daniel Tosh and other like comedians that go out of their way to make things provocative and to make those kinds of jokes. But knowing that James Gunn said one thing one time and 10 years later it's coming back to bite him, hopefully as a teacher, this is kind of making a lesson to everybody else to really rethink, especially things that you post on social media, and not just that, but things that you say to people behind closed doors. Really, you kind of have to know that there's always someone watching, and there's always, you always have to take accountability and everything for your actions. And hopefully moving forward, everybody kind of, realizes that anything and everything that you say, somebody else has heard, and, it could come back 10 years from now to bite you in the butt.
Yeah. And it is something too. It's, we've all been there in that situation. I've definitely had my fair share of having too much to drink and saying or doing the wrong things. But at the end of the day, it's taking, it's recognizing that that's not an excuse. And it's great that he was able to get this second chance here. But at the same time, he might not have, and that would have been, something that he had said, kind of really bring him back later on him.
Yeah, and I think it would have served as just as much of a lesson to say, okay, we're not going to bring you back for this, as it is to go through everything that he's been through since then, and now finally say, okay, because of how you handled it, you could almost see it as a test and say, okay, we're going to fire you to see how you're going to react to this. And there wasn't one, no one did say, Disney's stupid for doing this, or, they'll be sorry, or bashing Disney or Marvel in any way. He took full accountability for it, and he fell on the sword, so to speak. So I think the way that he reacted it had a lot to do with him being reinstated.
Absolutely. And I think, what is your thought on kind of the public perception of this? It seems like everybody has just been out and about, super excited, really happy that he got reinstated. Are you almost surprised that you haven't really even seen any backlash towards this at all?
I think it depends how deep you go, because, on the surface, everybody's probably going to say, okay, good, and okay, cool, everything. There's going to be some people that still think that he probably shouldn't be in the industry at all because of what he said, that everybody should blackball him. And there's going to be other people on the other side that say he should have never been fired in the first place because what he said was 10 years old and everything. But so there's always at least two sides to a story like this. There's always going to be different opinions. I think for the most part, people are excited about it because, again, going back to the fact that he did say, what I said was wrong and all these things. If he would have went out and said, I stand by my comments and, everything like that, and then he got reinstated, it'd be a different story. Or if he never got fired to begin with, it would be a different story. But I think everything all considered, enough time has elapsed. And, everything has kind of worked out the way it did, where, you don't have to necessarily forgive and forget about what he said, but at least you can kind of accept his apology and move on, maybe.
There you go. I agree. I think that's definitely a good point. And I think that is something, moving forward, we could all learn from. And at the end of the day, he's the director, writer of one of the most successful franchises that even Disney has gone above and beyond to accept and integrate into their theme parks, which, if you think about it, there's a lot of movies, a lot of franchises that they have no representation in theme parks. They've actually taken Tower of Terror, a staple, and transitioned it in Disneyland to Guardians of the Galaxy. So this is something that, Disney really does take serious. It's a big franchise for them. And, we had talked about maybe changing actors and whatever. Now, if that could be avoided, I think it's best for everybody.
Yeah, of course. This also, all goes back to, well, I guess the Guardians of the Galaxy are coming back.
Right, exactly, exactly. We had talked. Right.
I mean,
if they're doing a third now, unless there's a second batch of Guardians of the Galaxy, which could also be, isn't there a rumor that maybe
So at the end of Guardians 2, that there was the original Guardians of the Galaxy that was before the, there, just like there have been different iterations of the Avengers. There have been, the roster has changed many times over throughout the years, and the roster of Guardians of the Galaxy has also changed many times over. But the fact that Dave Bautista and Chris Pratt and everybody are coming back or had plans to come back, and now looks like they are going to be taking these roles back.
Over
they kind of
kind of gives it away.
The dots.
right. And I think I think part of the idea of the Avengers movie and part of everyone's excitement is the idea of, we know this is going to happen. Let's see how they get there.
Oh yeah.
And let's see if everybody's brought back or if it's only a certain number of people who they explain away. Let's, I guess, I think that's part of it too.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that anybody walked into the movie, 20 years ago when everybody went to go see Titanic and nobody was surprised at the ending when the boat sank. Like, yeah. But it was still one of the biggest movies ever made. So, I don't think anybody is going to necessarily be surprised at some of the things that happen in the movie. But, everybody wants to see what happens. And the thing is that just because people come back doesn't mean that they're going to stay back. Certain people are coming back, certain people might not be coming back. So it's all it's all kind of to see who is actually still standing at the end of the movie, and what goes on from here, because a lot of people are seeing this as a torch passing movie. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I think I would go into that last Avengers movie, and every time one of these characters was introduced on the screen, there was a major pop. It was like, hey, it's Black Panther. Everybody went nuts. And now I feel like it'll be the idea of, oh, that guy's alive. Yay. Like, I think that is part of the fun that people are looking forward to about this movie that's coming up. So something to definitely think about, something to definitely follow. And if you guys are interested, we did just put up about a 15-minute reaction video to the latest trailer that was released for the Avengers a couple of days ago. I want to say Thursday night, right when it was released. Put up a video on that, and you guys can go. We watched the trailer in real time, react to it, and then we discuss, what we thought from that trailer. There are some spoilers in there, and there's also a really awkward couple seconds of me staring deep into your soul to start the video. We were doing these now on unlisted YouTube. Unlisted YouTube rather than being live right now. We're just trying out some different things. And so I didn't realize, usually when you go live on YouTube, there's a certain 5 to 10 second delay where basically it loads, says you're live. It didn't tell me we were live on the other one that was unlisted originally. It was just like I hit the start broadcast and then it was like, oh crap, we're live. And so that is why I'm staring there and preparing to speak for so long. Hopefully this time we did a better job. All right, so at this point, we are going to get into a discussion on Captain Marvel. If you guys haven't seen it, we gave it a full week. But if you guys have not had a chance to go see this yet, do not go watch the new Marvel Avengers Endgame trailer, because that will give you some spoilers. And B, turn this off now and then come back after you do see the video, after you do go see Captain Marvel and hear our thoughts on it, and we'll take it from there. So, Steve, what did you think overall of Captain Marvel?
I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. One of the things that people have said is really kind of the cultural impact that this movie has had. From a standpoint of this being a mega female superhero, really, in many ways, the first one that Disney's MCU has had. I know that Marvel's had a few with Storm, certainly with the X-Men movies from 20th Century Fox. Obviously, there was also that atrocious Jennifer Gardner movie that came out years ago. Elektra, brutal. But this one is really like, not only is Captain Marvel not only is a female the lead in this movie, but the female is really being depended on by all of these Avengers that we've built up here for over 10 years to come and save the day. And I think that's pretty cool. And, just kind of seeing my wife's excitement over it. And she ran over to the poster and immediately, I'm going to do the Captain Marvel pose, get a photo of me doing it. I can imagine, she's obviously an adult. I can imagine how young kids are feeling about this. And that's really cool to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I would say, I would put it definitely, if I had to start ranking all of the different Marvel movies, there's so many of them now, but I would say it's definitely in the second half of the top. I mean, there are some that, like Infinity War and Civil War and, a lot of other ones that it's really hard to beat. But I would say it's in the second half, it's definitely in the upper tier as far as, my personal rankings would go with the movies.
Certainly. Yeah. I think there's been some criticism about the movie. But me personally, if you go into this movie, first off, the nostalgia is amazing in this movie. The songs, the soundtrack is probably the best soundtrack they've done for a Marvel movie ever, because of how many. Movie takes place in 1995, so you're getting a whole bunch of songs from that era. I Saw the Sign. The Spice Girls were in there at one point, and so you're getting all these songs that, if you grew up in that era like I did as a kid, you are taken back there. And, oh crap, remember that song? Or, oh, remember that song? And that is I thought that was really kind of one of the stabilizing pieces of the movie, right up there with the fact that a major part of the movie takes place in a Blockbuster Video.
Yeah.
A store that I still don't see how it ever failed. I just don't understand how Blockbuster went out of business. I think it was a foolproof system.
And, I think the funny thing is, I have to say this because I said it to my wife and she hated me for it. The equivalent of this movie coming out now, taking place in 1995 and having all the music and everything, is the equivalent of a movie coming out in 1995 that takes place in 1971.
You're right. Wow, that is crazy. And that feels like 1971, way before either of us were even thought of.
Right.
And is one of these deals that feels ancient. That feels like that can't possibly be the way that it is. But at the end of the day, you're right. That's crazy.
Yeah. But the funny thing, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, there's so many anachronisms and there's continuity problems with it and everything, this song is playing on the radio, but and it takes place in July of 1995, but it didn't come out until September of 1995. And I think people are nitpicking this movie more for certain reasons than they would have for other reasons. I don't remember anybody going back to Captain America and saying, gosh, this thing that happened in Captain America didn't come out for another year or two, or a month or two for that matter. So really it's really, I think people are going to analyze this more because of, the certain reasons. And I think it's unfortunate because when you start nitpicking that kind of thing, it really glosses over the major story and the bigger picture. And that's what the movie is all about. The movie is all about the bigger picture.
Yeah, I mean, it's done incredibly well. It's already now just in, its second weekend of release. It's now toppled over $800 million worldwide. So it's done really well. I mean, I remember there's somebody behind me in the theater just kept going on and on and on and on and droning on about how he felt that Marvel had, kind of released this so soon before Avengers Endgame to get the rub from Avengers Endgame to launch a new series. And I don't know why that was a bad thing, but it makes sense. Like, why wouldn't you do that if you have the opportunity to do it,
Yeah, they did the same thing. They did the same exact thing for Black Panther last year. Black Panther was released to hype up Infinity War because a lot of it takes place in Wakanda. So, right. You can't have that without, having all of the backstory and everything. So you can't just have Captain Marvel all of a sudden pop in. And, there was the meme of, in Infinity War when Scarlet Witch finally enters the fray in that movie, and I'm blanking on her name, but one of the Wakandan soldiers turns to everyone and goes, she was up there the whole time, why wasn't she fighting? If for Captain Marvel to just pop into this movie and go, where have you been? Why didn't we call you before? And there now you can actually see why she wasn't there, and and why she is so important.
Right. No, you're 100% right. And Forbes put out a really good piece about the Captain Marvel being something that didn't deserve so much criticism going in. And they also said, unfortunately, a lot of the criticism that Captain Marvel received was from fanboys who don't want girls in the clubhouse. Is the article what they said. And so, I mean, unfortunately, I think that is part of it. But I thought the movie was great, and I actually enjoyed not only the backstory of Captain Marvel, but you also get a lot of backstory of Nick Fury in this movie, and I thought that was really fun, and kind of finding out how he gets his start and how kind of how he becomes so involved with this initiative, and how he became blind, you find out in this movie, from the cat that's there. So it's a really, I thought that was really interesting to kind of see how he transitions throughout the movie as well.
I liked that. I liked the reasoning behind him losing that eye a lot more than how Han Solo got his name. I don't know if you saw Solo.
I did not see Solo.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't want to spoil anything, but basically Han Solo gets his name in a very silly way. And Nick Fury losing his eye in kind of a silly way it's funny, but mostly because of the fact that he can drum it up to make it so that he's this badass that lost his eye in combat and that kind of thing.
Right.
And still, I mean, hey, he went toe to toe with this, super powerful otherworldly being, and all he got out of it was a lost eye. So he can consider himself lucky, right?
That's very true. And it's funny because I feel like he's been almost this guy that you've almost wondered, like, how does he have so much knowledge? What does he have over the Avengers? And seeing that he didn't really have anything. Like, at the end of the day, he's a human being. I thought was, he doesn't have any powers. He's just, a guy who's just started. He saw Captain Marvel, and that's what made him really fall in love and realize, oh my God, there's probably a lot more Avengers like this. And in order to survive, we're going to need a lot more help from all this stuff that happens in Captain Marvel. I thought was great.
Yeah, and and there's people that saying, oh well, he said in Thor that it was the first time that they had extraterrestrials, and there was all these other things that saying, oh well, what about this? And part of it is maybe he didn't want to let out that he had this whole thing happen. He was one of like 3 people that knew about this, so he kind of want to keep it under wraps. Same thing with Agent Coulson. He's a big thing in Avengers, and he's been in other Marvel movies, and he was one of the main characters in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So, to get him started also was kind of cool. A lot of people are saying, a lot of things about this movie and the continuity, and kind of going in, you kind of probably were expecting that because there's a lot of, history and everything that's already kind of been established. So there's so many things, and there's so many one itty bitty lines of dialogue that, popped up in other movies that I don't know if you want to regard it as a continuity error or say, they didn't want to say a lot about this because of all the implications in it. Because if you say, okay, yeah, Captain Marvel, she's this alien or, has powers from an alien, they say, okay, well, what about these aliens? Oh, well, there's the Kree and there's the Skrulls, and you get too far into it. And, if you were in this universe, hypothetically, if you were one of the heads of, S.H.I.E.L.D. or anybody else for that matter, you start asking these questions about Skrulls and Kree and everything, then you start going down that pathway of, this is getting a little bit too deep. And I think, trying to kind of play devil's advocate, Fury kind of recognized that and said, the world isn't ready to know all of these things yet. So let's maybe keep it under wraps until we have to tell people.
Exactly. Yeah, no. And I think, one of the other questions that has come out of this is like, so at the end of the movie, for those of you who don't know, Captain Marvel agrees to go and basically fend off all the other planets and basically go and try to make sure that the other planets are good, and gives Nick Fury a little device that she sets up that will enable him to get in touch with her if he needs her assistance for any reason, but tells him specifically, don't get in touch with me until it's an emergency. Mm-hmm. So this has led to people, well, how has Nick Fury never gotten in touch with Captain Marvel until now?
Exactly.
Right. But isn't it part of the idea that he just thought he had it under wraps?
Well, and that could be too, I mean, he, the snap comes out of nowhere, and he didn't really know a lot of what was, because, I mean, if you think about it, between the space actually happening, the invasion actually happening, and, all the fighting going on, the Avengers didn't really do a good job of keeping Fury in the loop as far as, hey, Thanos has this Infinity Gauntlet, and if he gets control of it, he's going to wipe out half the world. A lot of them didn't necessarily know about that. So they just know, oh, there's this crazy invasion going on. We have to get to it. Let's do this. If you go back and rewatch Infinity War, there's the 3, there's the Guardians that kind of are doing their own thing. There's Tony and everybody that's on Titan, and then there's everybody that's back on Earth. And they don't really talk a whole lot and communicate a whole lot about what's going on. They find out what Thanos' plan is by someone else that knows some of it. They don't really go and talk and say and keep everybody updated about Thanos has the 3rd gem. Thanos has the 4th gem. He's coming to Earth now. So there's not enough time for anybody to say, oh, you know what? Who we should keep in the loop now? Fury, because we know that he has this other thing that he can call Captain Marvel whenever he feels like it. So he knew what he knew at that time, and then by the time that he said, "Oh man, this is a problem. I need to call Captain Marvel. It's too late." And then he turns into dust. So, he did it at the exact moment where he thought, "Oh, this is an emergency. This is out of hand now. Now I need to get it." Like, any other time, he's kind of had things under control. Yeah. And this was the first time where it really was an emergency. And
you get in touch with, that's pretty crazy. Yeah, I mean, I agree, and I think that one of the other things that come out of this is the idea that how he gets the Tesseract, because he still has the Tesseract, right?
Well, they had it, and then they lost it, and then Loki had it, and then
right, it's kind of all over and everything.
Yeah.
The idea of how they get it in this movie is that this cat is able to gobble it up, and one of the things that probably one of my favorite part of the entire movie is when they put the little device on the cat, and it says that this cat is a major, because everybody is afraid of this cat except for Nick Fury. He doesn't know. Everyone else is like really suspect about this cat, wants nothing to do with this cat. Get it away from us. It's a monster. Nick Fury is the whole time playing with the cat and smiling and scratching its chin, and he's just the happiest guy ever. And at one point, they put the little device that detects how big of a threat the actual cat is, and it says status species unknown, threat very high, and then he goes over to Fury, and it says like species human, threat very low. And Fury's like, what the hell? I thought that was a great movie, and I know some folks have said there wasn't as much humor in this one as there's been in other Marvel movies, which I think is also fine. I feel like sometimes the humor in the Marvel movies once in a while can seem forced, so I have no problem with this one not having as much, but that one I thought was a great part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was just enough of it. There was, you make it too much and then you say, okay, they're trying too hard to be funny. They're not necessarily about the humor. Humor is always an added bonus in these movies. You go for the action, you go for the escape from reality, and you don't, I mean, with the Guardians, you're kind of banking on it, anything that's ever written by Joss Whedon, that there's going to be some witty banter back and forth. You don't necessarily I don't go to the Marvel movies expecting a large amount of comedy.
Right.
I mean, it's great. It's a great added bonus, but I'm not going to the movies for the humor.
Exactly. One other piece that I did see a little criticism on, and I kind of agree, and there were two villains from the Guardians of the Galaxy movie that have since passed on, and they've been destroyed. They, though, were in this movie, in Captain Marvel, and you would have hoped, I was hoping we'd get a little more backstory as to who these guys were, what made them such big villains in the Guardians movies, or was it the Thor movies?
No, it's Guardians, yeah.
Guardians, yeah. And we didn't get much of that. I thought that was kind of disappointing.
I was a little bit disappointed to not see Ronan in person. You only really saw him in that, hologram thing. And there was, you never really, I mean, you see him like maybe once in person. But yeah, you do kind of get this sense of, there was never really, like, there was definitely conflict and there was this impending doom, but it didn't seem out of hand at all.
Right.
And you didn't really, you kind of have to have seen Guardians of the Galaxy and know why this is a big deal for Ronan to be coming in order to get that sense of gravity. Otherwise, you're just like, oh, Ronan's coming. Okay, so what?
Right, exactly. And
who is the guy? Like, so.
And it was Ronan, and it was, who's the other person?
Are we talking about? Hold on.
The guy who was he was part of Captain Marvel's kind of team there, and
Entourage, the team. That was, I'm blanking on the name, and I have to look it up. Korath.
What's that?
Korath,
and he has a very, the only thing about him that we kind of learned was they said something like he doesn't laugh, he doesn't have a sense of humor, and he said he does, he just has it kind of on the inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the only thing that I really know him from is Guardians of the Galaxy, and when his first confrontation with Star-Lord, and he's the one that goes, "Who?"
Right,
and that's it. Yeah. So I mean,
It was
But
cool to see that he was there. Like it was cool. Like they threw, I think, him in there as like a, hey, if you've been paying attention, do you remember this guy type deal?
right, yeah. Yeah, like, oh, you know, a little foreshadowing, knowing that maybe these guys aren't completely on the up and up, you know?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And then probably the other piece that comes out of this movie that is worth, definitely talking about is that this movie had the Stan Lee tribute in the beginning of the movie. They, rather than it just kind of starting like all the other Marvel movies, this kind of comes out and they have the Marvel kind of that banner come up, that title of Marvel, and through each one of the letters is a different scene that Stan Lee's been in throughout all these Marvel movies and all of his great cameos that he's done. And is this the final cameo that he did, or is he going to be in?
From what I hear, there might be one or two more.
Okay.
But, you know, I mean, and again, like, I love the cameo in this. This is perfect.
Yes.
You know, everybody, you know, and again, it was one of those things where people were like, oh, well, you know, if the film is set in June of 95 and the filming of Mallrats took place between March 6th and April 19th, you know, April 12th, but, you know, it's like, come on, like, we're talking about a couple of months and
Right.
talking about a movie, and we're talking about, you know, maybe in this universe, because it's clearly not our, you know, there's different things that are, you know, don't know if you've been paying attention, but we don't have aliens running around in this world. This is very clearly a different universe. Maybe there's just a little bit things different. Maybe, you know, Mallrats in this universe came out a couple of months later, like, you know, and that's, you know, people, and it's the people that love these things, and when you see things not going perfectly as they have it in their mind, they kind of have this urge to speak out about it. But the fact that, you know, it was cool because it's like, oh, Mallrats, like, I love Mallrats, I love that movie. I didn't have to think, oh, gosh, you know, when did Mallrats actually come out? Is this really continuity? Like, you know, that's not really what the nostalgia factor is about. It's about, you know, hey, remember this thing? We're making a joke about it. And remember when, you know, we can say Stan Lee made this cameo in Mallrats? This was him planning for it. And it's like, you know, get over yourselves.
Yeah, I mean that is, sometimes it's just, you've got to just enjoy things for what they are.
Yeah.
Instead of taking everything so serious. And I completely agree. I thought that you know, they handled this well, and it's one of these deals that I think you know, it's definitely the end of an era. I hope that he's there in Endgame, and I don't think they're going to let us know when it's the last one. I bet there's going to be one that's coming up where you're like, oh my God, he's still making cameos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
maybe they'll pull some archival footage somehow and you know, splice them in there or something.
Exactly. And it's funny when you were talking about, like, I understand that it is, I understand that a lot of these folks that are delving deep into all of these different things are your super fanatical folks, and you're going to have those folks. I remember I went to like a trivia night once, and they asked a question about Superman, and somebody, like one of the people playing the game, like jumped up out of his seat, and he was like, wait, and they were like, yeah, yes, and he said, are we talking, you know, pre whatever or post whatever? And the guy who read the question was just like, I don't know how to answer that question. And so that's where I think a lot of this does come from, some of this criticism. I don't have as big of a problem with that criticism as I do about some of the stuff coming out about, you know, Captain Marvel being female and all of that immature stuff going on. As a huge crash, I think wind just knocked down a bunch of stuff in my kitchen. But the, you know, at the same time, it is sometimes just like, enjoy the story. Take yourself out of it somewhat and enjoy what's there. So
yeah, I mean, I noticed something of my own. You know, there was you know, in Iron Man and everything, when Agent Coulson first introduces himself and saying he's from Shield, he says the full thing. He says the strategic homeland, blah blah blah, and you know, Pepper Potts goes to him and goes, oh, you know, I think you maybe need to shorten that a little bit. So I don't know if that necessarily means that they hadn't had the acronym until then, because there was a big reveal later on saying, oh yeah, you know, we came up with a new name. But then in Captain Marvel, one of the first things that you know, Fury does, he throws up his badge and says, oh, official Shield business. So you know, I mean, I don't know if that's really continuity. You know, people, if you want to nitpick, sure, say, oh, well, did Coulson, was he just really being superficial? Did they actually have the acronym or not? Is this a continuity issue? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I kind of chuckled and went on with my life. Like, I didn't feel the need to harp on that, So if those kinds of things are going to dampen your experience at the movie, then don't go see it, because there's not going to be a movie that's going to, especially if you go to a movie that's based on a book or a comic book or whatever, it's not going to ever be 100% in line with not just what happens in that source material, but your vision of the material. Because, reading a comic book is a very independent thing. What you come out of reading that book or that comic book is going to be completely different than what another person does. And for you to go and watch something that's based on something else and go, well, that's not how they did it in the book, or that's not how they did it in in the comic book, or that's not how, I thought it was going to come out. You kind of have to take your own personal, vision of what it was aside and say, this is this person's experience with it, and this is this person's vision of what was going to happen, and just kind of go with it, enjoy it for what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can't take things too seriously. It's I think you need to accept it and then say, then you can go back and say, hey, I read the comics, I watched the movies, this is where they kind of contrasted, and this is what I like better about this, and this is what I like better about that. And I feel like that's what's the fun in it,
Yeah, definitely.
One last thing here. Did you have anything else on Captain Marvel?
No, I think that pretty much wraps up.
Yeah. Lastly, I did want to see, did you hear the situation that they did not include Danai Gurira, and I think I really screwed that up, on the Marvel Endgame poster?
And that was the actress that I was talking about when she's going, oh, she was up there the whole time?
Wait, I'm sorry, say it again?
So in Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
There's the scene where, Scarlet Witch is up basically protecting Vision while all this stuff is going on with him trying to extract the Infinity Stone that's in his, in his forehead. And eventually it gets too bad where Scarlet Witch has to enter the fight down there with the aliens. And, there's that point where she comes in and she just starts kicking ass and everything. And that character turns to everyone and goes, she was up there the whole time? Like, what isn't she down here fighting with us?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so that's what I meant. Yeah, so it was, we're talking about Danai Gurira,
yeah, who plays Okoye. Yeah. She's also really big on the show The Walking Dead. And she plays Michonne on there. And
Michonne.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Michonne.
I don't watch The Walking Dead.
Not Michonne.
Never seen it. So I just saw that on there. But she was off the poster. I think it was an omission, and to Marvel's credit, they reissued the poster and put her name on there, and didn't even put it at the end. They put it like right in the middle. So I thought that was good of them.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, she is one of the people standing at the end of Infinity War. So there's not a lot of people that you can put on the poster. I just really liked the fact that if you go and look at the Infinity War poster, almost everybody is kind of looking at least something towards forward. And if you look at the Endgame poster, everybody is like looking in one direction.
Oh yeah, you're right. Everyone's kind of looking off to the side, right?
Like almost everybody is looking at the top left corner, and then you have a couple of people, and she is one of them that's looking the other way. And everybody else is pretty much looking up.
Yeah, you're right. It's just her and Thor. Even Rocket is looking, looking up. That is very interesting.
And it kind of makes me wonder: is this intentional? What's going on with what's in that corner? That's so fascinating.
Right. That is that's really funny. And they don't have. Oh yeah, they do. Ant-Man is over there in that poster. Yeah. I didn't see him for a second. But yeah, no, I do like. But I think people were upset not only because of the fact that they had not included Gurira on the poster, but they did include Bradley Cooper, and people were and Josh Brolin, and they were like, if you're going to include them, what the heck? The one person you left out, and it was clearly just, an omission. They didn't mean to do it, but thought that was interesting. So well, I think that's going to wrap us up today. I know you have to get Stella over to obedience class, right? Or is it obedience?
Yeah, last class.
Last class. Good for her. Awesome. So enjoy that. Thanks so much, guys, for everyone who's checking us out here today. What I'm going to do, I'll post this up on our YouTube page, and I'll put some timestamps in the description below. So hopefully you guys will be able to go and see that. So if you only wanted to see the Captain Marvel stuff and you saw that, you can go and take a look at those timestamps and see where we kind of talked about every other topic today. So this should be up by the afternoon today. We're going to work on this over the next couple hours, and I'm not even sure why I'm telling you that, because if you're watching this right now, you already know that it's up. But that's going to do it for us right now on Disney 101. Make sure you do subscribe over on YouTube, though. Lots more fun videos coming up throughout the week. And follow us over on Instagram. We have a lot more. We had a whole bunch of fun that was planned on Instagram. And then I guess we had caused such a stir during our first day that we actually had Instagram shut down for 24 hours. Instagram wasn't working. I don't know if you were aware, Steve.
Yeah,
it was quite disappointing. But this is what it is. Instagram at Disney 101 Pod, Twitter at Disney 101 Pod. And until next time, everybody, we will see you here. Have a very great weekend, and happy St. Patrick's Day to all those who are celebrating.